This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by Sterling Roastery. For several months you've heard me talking about the great products and scents offered by the Sterling Soap Company. And while there may not seem to be any correlation between soap and coffee, what is similar is the same care and attention to detail in delivering great products to their customers. Sterling Roastery will ship great-tasting beans or ground coffee, for whatever coffee-making process you prefer, right to your door. I gave their breakfast blend a try recently, and I can tell you, it was a great way to get my day kick-started with this smooth, medium blend. And just like their soaps, they have a variety to choose from. Give Sterling Roastery a try at sterlingsoap.com. You found it, the one and only daily sports history podcast dedicated to what happened specifically on this day in sports. No AI crap, just me researching, writing, voicing it, producing it, and then sending it out into the world. It is October 28th, and on this day throughout sports history, Steve Spurrier achieved his goal of humiliating the Georgia Bulldogs. We had justice in Atlanta, and Roger Staubach had a revelation. All that plus a few more odds and ends for you, and a non-sports fun fact about a happy little mistake that became a tradition. Stick around. This may be the most productive 15 minutes of your day. But let's start what happened on this day in 1995, when the greatest cocktail party hit the road for a tour around Athens, Georgia. It turned out to be not much of a game, and it caused the dogs to want to drink a whole lot more in the parking lots afterward. So this was actually the second year that the Georgia-Florida game had been played away from Jacksonville. The Gator Bowl had been closed for business in 1993, and the Jacksonville Municipal Stadium would not be ready until 1996. This rivalry game had not been played in Athens since 1932. And in the weeks prior to this one, Florida head coach Steve Spurrier had heard something very interesting. Georgia had never given up 50 points at home. Well, since the Gators hung 52 on the Dogs in '94 in Gainesville, he thought he'd like to do that again and become the first team to hang half 100 on the Dogs between the hedges. They were on pace to do it in the first half, after Gator QB Danny Werfel threw his third touchdown pass in the first quarter.
Four receivers out of the pattern. Into the end zone. Doring, touchdown. A 24-yard bullet that time, and Werfel just laid it in so very softly.
That was Doring's second TD catch of the game. He'd catch his third a few minutes into the second quarter, and by halftime, it was 28-3 Florida. With 5 minutes to play in the game, the Gators were up 45-17. But Spurrier was a coach who said, if you don't want us to score, then stop us from getting to the end zone. He was unapologetic about scoring, even when the margin was wide. Plus, with there being no BCS National Championship game or college football playoff yet, margin of victory mattered in a lot of cases. And the third-ranked Gators wanted to make an impression, not just on the Georgia Bulldogs, but also the voters. So as the announcers discussed the ethics of running up the score on your opponent, the Gators struck again.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about this here, Mark. I don't want to ever accuse anybody of doing anything, but why you use a play like that in a game like this at this point in the game is beyond me.
And here's the same man again with a reception of touchdown, McGriff.
The Gators won 52-17, and in defense of Spurrier a little bit, if he was truly running up the score, he would have gone for 2 after that touchdown. It is still the only time a team has scored 50 points or more on the Dogs at home. The Gators were not done rolling up points on their opponents for the season, though. They scored 58 the next week against Northern Illinois and 63 2 weeks later against South Carolina. On that same day, while the Bulldogs were getting drilled in Athens, the Atlanta Braves were on the cusp of their first World Championship and hoping to bring the first ever world title to the state of Georgia in any sport. The Braves had been one of the best teams in baseball in the first half of this decade. They'd won the National League pennant in '91 and '92, but had come up short in the World Series. this was Game 6 between the Braves and the Cleveland Indians, with the Braves winning Games 1 and 2 by a single run. Cleveland winning Games 3 and 5 by a single run. Game 4 was a blowout, comparatively speaking, with the Braves winning that one by 3. Game 6 was played in Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium, but the hometown crowd was a little less than friendly to one of their own. In that morning's Atlanta Journal-Constitution, an article quoted Atlanta outfielder David Justice ripping into the lack of emotional support shown by Braves fans and praising the Cleveland fans. His first few plate appearances, Justice got booed, but all was forgotten and forgiven after his plate appearance in the 6th. Here's NBC's Bob Costas with the call that night.
1-1 pitch. A long drive to right. Ramirez turns to the track. She's gone.
Thanks to Braves starting pitcher Tom Glavine, that was all the scoring he'd need. Glavine was masterful on this night and nearly unhittable. In fact, it was not until the top half of the 6th that the Indians picked up their first and what would be their only hit when Tony Pena singled for the Indians. Glavine pitched 8 complete, gave up just that one hit, struck out 8, and walked 3 on 109 pitches. Mark Wohlers came on in the 9th to close it out. Not only had the Braves players and fans waited a long time for this moment, but so too had Braves announcers who'd covered a lot of lean years for the team back in the 70s and early 80s and the close but no cigar years of 91 and 92. Here's longtime Braves announcer Skip Carey with the final call from that night.
Nobody's left to beat the traffic tonight, I guarantee you. Mark gets the sign. The wind and the pitch, here it is. Swung, fly ball deep left center. Grissom on the run. Yes, yes, yes. The Atlanta Braves have given you a championship. Listen to this crowd. A mob scene on the field. Wohlers gets them 1, 2, 3. A couple of fans rushing on the field, and the constables restrain them. The Atlanta Braves have brought the first championship to Atlanta.
5 of the 6 games in the series were decided by a single run, and just as Carey said, it was the first championship for the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia in any sport. Looking for that perfect gift for the basketball fan in your life? Basketball Now is it. Newly updated for 2025, it spotlights 50 of the NBA's top stars. Think fast breaks, clutch threes, and buzzer beaters, captured in stunning photography with sharp, readable analysis. From rising stars to veteran icons, this book is a courtside pass to the game right now. Wrap up a slam dunk this holiday season. Pick up your copy of Basketball Now today at your favorite bookseller. On this day in 1981, the Los Angeles Dodgers closed out the World Series over the New York Yankees. The 1981 postseason was a bit of an anomaly at the time, though now it would look normal. Major League Baseball went through a strike during the season. It started on June 12th and ended August 8th, and because of that, the owners decided to split the season into 2 parts. The winner of each of the 2 divisions in both the American and National Leagues in each of the halves of the season would advance to a divisional series. Of course, now we have the ALDS and the NLDS as part of the postseason, but that did not officially start until the 1995 postseason. But this also led to some teams being left out of the playoff picture despite having a better overall record than the teams who qualified as the winners of each half of the season. The team that got hosed the most was the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds had the best record through their shortened 108-game schedule than any other team in baseball. But since they were a half game back of the Dodgers right before the strike and a game and a half back of the Astros at the end of the second half, they did not qualify. In the American League, the Yankees beat the Milwaukee Brewers in the ALDS and swept Oakland in the ALCS to advance to the World Series. LA beat the Houston Astros and the Montreal Expos to make their way back to the Fall Classic, and due to all the extra postseason play, this was the latest starting series by the calendar, and it also wrapped up later than any series to that point. This was a rematch of the '78 series that the Yankees won in 6 games, but this time around it was the Dodgers repaying the favor in the same way. This was Game 6 in the Bronx, and despite it being in the American League ballpark, they were not playing with a designated hitter in this series, which would play a pivotal role in this one. Game 2 winner Tommy John got the start for the Yankees, and he cruised through the first 3. Now, this was still part of the era when pitchers threw complete games. If you were effective, kept runners off the base paths, runs off the board, well, you stayed in on the mound. Pitch counts be damned. John had gone the distance 7 times during the shortened regular season, and he had thrown 16 complete games the year before. But according to a book written by Bobby Mercer years after this series, meddling owner George Steinbrenner ordered manager Bob Lemon to pull John if they got an early lead and let the bullpen, which had not been very good that year, take over. That was the plan, or rather, Steinbrenner's plan, and it did not work. With the game tied in the 4th inning, John was pinch hit for, again no DH in the series, Mercer flew out and John was done for the night. He paced the dugout looking like he wanted to strangle somebody after being pulled. In the 5th, Pedro Guerrero tripled home the Penguin Ron Cey, and the Dodgers scored 3 runs. In the next inning, the Yankee bullpen continued their spectacular collapse, giving up another 4 runs. Guerrero sank the dagger deep in Yankee hearts with a 2-run single. Pedro added a solo shot in the 8th, and the Dodgers won the game 9-2 and wrapped up their World Championship. For the Yankees, this began a long postseason drought. They would miss the playoffs for 12 straight years and did not make it back to the World Series until 1996, one we talked about just a few days ago. On this day in 1979, Dallas Cowboy quarterback Roger Staubach got a tingling feeling, but it was anything but good, and it eventually led to Staubach retiring from the game. The Cowboys were in Pittsburgh on this day, and when the 4th quarter started, Staubach, aka Captain Comeback, was trying to rally the Cowboys back from a 14-3 deficit. He drifted back in the pocket, got pressured, scrambled, and then he took a huge hit.
Out, Roger. Staubach manages to... Ball is loose. Staubach really took a shot, and he might be shaken up a bit. L.C. Greenwood is the man who hit him, I believe. Roger has got to be dazed by that. Staubach obviously shaken. Let's see if we can...
L.C. Greenwood crushed Staubach, and he crumpled to the turf, knocked out cold for a few moments. So when Staubach regained consciousness and he was led over to the sideline, he was trying to remember what city he was in. Thomas Hollywood Henderson came over, looked at the glazed look in Roger's eyes, and asked how he was doing. And that's when Staubach said he was tingling all over. Not a good feeling. He actually wanted to go back in the game, though, but team doctors refused to let that happen. He would come back and start the remainder of the Cowboys' games that season, but the Greenwood hit got him thinking. It gave him his 22nd concussion of his career, and while doctors said he could keep on playing, they also told him that the next one might be life-altering. So even though the '79 season turned out to be the best season of his career statistically speaking, and the Cowboys put a 2-year extension on the table in the offseason, Staubach decided he could not afford another shot to the head, and he retired from football. On this day in 1962, New York Giant Y.A. Tittle put on an aerial show. The Giants were playing the Washington Redskins, and Tittle threw 7 touchdown passes in a 49-34 win at Yankee Stadium. He completed 27 of 39 passes for 505 yards on the day. The 7 touchdowns in a game had been done 3 times already. Sid Luckman did it first in 43, Adrian Burke equaled that in 54, and George Blanda, the ageless one, did it in 1961. It's also been done 4 times since. The last to throw 7 touchdowns in a game is Drew Brees in 2015. Breeze also equaled Tittle's 505 yards passing in that one. One thing that Tittle is known for is a play he called the alley-oop. Now, in a 1957 game against the Detroit Lions, when Tittle was playing with the San Francisco 49ers, Tittle came up with a play in which he tossed it long and high in the air for 6'3" R.C. Owens to go and get. He connected with Owens on a game winner against the Lions, and it was the first time that the term alley-oop was ever used in sports. Now, we would call that play a Hail Mary today. Of course, the term alley-oop has now been co-opted by basketball, but the next time you hear it in a basketball game, you can explain to your friends that the origin actually traces to football and why a Tittle. On this day in 1973, LA Laker Elmore Smith set the NBA record for most blocked shots in a game. The 7-foot-tall Smith rejected 17 shots in a game against the Portland Trail Blazers. He played all 48 minutes. He added 12 points and 16 rebounds for a triple-double that night. Now, 1973 was the first year that the NBA started keeping the blocks stat, so it was fortuitous for the man who earned the nickname the Rejector. It's quite possible that Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell had as many or more in a game, but we will never know. Manute Bol and Shaq have come close to equaling the record. Bol rejected 15 shots twice in his career, and Shaq blocked 15 against the Nets in a game in '93. To go along with Smith's 17 blocks, Gail Goodrich poured in 49 points in the 111-98 win for the Lakers over the Blazers. And how about one more thing that happened on this day in 1995 when Serena Williams made her professional tennis debut. She was just 14 at this point and played a qualifying match in Quebec City. She'd been given a special exemption since this was after the implementation of the age eligibility rule, or what became known as the Capriati rule. It was put in place in '95 as a means to restrict players under the age of 16 from playing too many tournaments and burning out. On the other side of the net was 18-year-old Annie Miller, who had also just turned pro. Serena remembered being incredibly nervous, which is understandable. The result did not give any indication of the greatness that was on the way in a few years, though. Miller, ranked number 149 in the world at that point, beat Serena 6-1, 6-1 in less than an hour. Serena went back home, worked on her game, and did not return to the court again as a professional until 1997. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. If you've seen the hand and footprints in front of LA's Grauman's Chinese Theater, and who hasn't, well, you may not know that the tradition started accidentally. In 1926, during construction, silent film stars Norma Talmadge and Mary Pickford turned the first shovel of dirt during a photo shoot. Well, Talmadge stepped on wet cement by accident, and then, realizing what she'd done, called to Pickford and told her to put her feet into it as well. From a happy mistake came the tradition of the hand and footprints in front of the Chinese Theater. That's all I've got for you today, but you know I'll be back tomorrow, right? For another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.